Hi guys, it's Kelly, and I'm back for another lesson. I know in the past we had covered self with self, which was sitting and feeling the atmosphere around you. Then we worked on object permanence, so if you have a ball or something like that, you're creating that with the weight. And then we also did monologues and finding different levels in your monologues. But what I'm doing right now is telling you about creating that world behind you. Probably one of the biggest mistakes I see, particularly with beginning improvisers, is they want to keep everything in the here and now. And they just want to stand and talk to people like this and just have a conversation. Or they want to sit in chairs and have a conversation and nothing's moving. Well, I can sit and watch conversations all the time. That's not interesting to me. What's interesting is if you create this world around you, that even though it's in your imagination and you're projecting that outward to your audience, they can start to see it for themselves. So think about now, we can't go traveling, and I guess a few people can, but while you're not able to go to all the places maybe you'd like to, why not research them online? And more than just places that aren't here where you are and the now, think about places that might be in other parts of the world and other points in history. What was it like maybe in New York in the 1920s? My daughter was talking about makeup, and I said, back in the 1920s, the flappers were wearing makeup. And it was really the first time women on a broad scale did that, and it wasn't like they were women of ill repute. It was just something everybody was doing. You saw the rise of Max Factor and other cosmetic companies at that point. So, think about if, you're a woman or a guy, what would a outfit have been? Women back then, one of the big things about the 1920s was you didn't have to wear corsets anymore. So you had drop waist dresses, you had heels, you had your skirts going a little bit over your knees so you weren't shuffling around in yards and yards of fabric. So what kind of freedom would that have been like? And then you could even go back, well, what was it like to be wearing all those clothes for men and women, the wool jackets and, the button-up shirts and, being very tightly tied there in a New York summer. So how would that influence the world that you're creating? What is back here? Are there tapestries? Are you in sort of a Game of Thrones? Even if that's one of your favorite things and you want to sit there and role play, great, go for it. Think about what kind of swords you would have, how heavy the sword would be. And look at that. What does it feel like to be back in ancient Rome? And then, think about the columns that are there. Think about, water that might be flowing around there. Think about the cobblestone streets. Think about being in a cart and bringing your goods to the market. Those are all things that you can explore. How would that market have smelled? What kind of smells would you have there? People would have been probably roasting meat, a lot of wine, a lot of olives and things like that. Would have been a lot of spices would have been around there. Think about, what your status would be if you were just bringing your goods to the market versus being an emperor. How different would those streets feel for you? So those are the sort of things to explore. So you could be high status, you could be the emperor, and lower status, the person who's, bringing things to market. So take yourself there, because frankly, most of the time, when you ask people for suggestions, there is something about improv that reduces a lot of people to pee-pee caca and 3-year-olds. So they're going to say gynecologist, proctologist, dildo, sex toy, brothel, bathrooms. That's as far as they want to go. But when you take it and you expand their horizon and you take them to places that they wouldn't have imagined, then all of a sudden, and you'll see that, and I've worked in improv troupes where we just stopped taking those suggestions and said, what, I know you guys have other ideas, let's focus on those. And all of a sudden the audience started to get conditioned and educated to not constantly be yelling those things out because they knew they weren't going to be accepted. But so start to explore what this world could be and different time zones. What would Dallas in 1972 have felt like maybe during the Nixon era versus 9 years earlier if you'd been there November 22nd, 1963. which was really a nice fall day. It was beautiful up until 12:30, and then the whole world changed. So you might not even want to be in Dallas. What if you were in a grocery store and someone ran in and told you the president has been shot? Granted, this is not fodder for comedy, but it is giving you a point of reference. How would you have felt as the CIA or the Secret Service agent versus the woman in the grocery store who's just hearing this news? So maybe in Shakespeare's time, how did people in Shakespeare's time move? What was the role of women back then? And clearly, Shakespeare thought quite a bit about women and tried to get them to even up the score with the men in their lives. That's pretty cool. So think about all those things as you're creating the world around you, as you're creating the streets, as you're creating the tapestries. Think about being out in space. Think about being in a spaceship. You know, when I do this exercise with little kids, man, they hone in on it right away. They haven't been told over and over again that their ideas are stupid. It's all yes and with little kids. So let yourself have that yes and moment. Explore in your living room all these different worlds. Think about what kind of character you would be in that world. Think about yourself as a high status character walking down that street. Think of yourself as a low status character walking through that street. But so a low status character may be smarter than the emperor. Most of the time they are. So what does that mean? And the emperor figures out that this person's smarter than they are. How are they going to react to that? Are they going to want to listen to their input? Or are they going to try to have them beheaded? So your assignment for this week, and I want you to try to do 5 different worlds from 5 different points in time, okay? And ideally, they can be in America, but they have to be, America can be one, but try different countries at different points in time as well. Then I want you to create one character that is high status in that world, and then I want you to create one character that is lower status in this world. And how are they going to react to simply walking out their front door? What is the outside of their home going to look like? What sort of things can they do or can't do based on their status? Guarantee if you try this exercise and just explore, take, maybe each day you take about 15-20 minutes, you create that world, explore that world with the 2 different, do that Monday through Friday or whatever you feel comfortable with. But definitely do that and explore it, and you'll sit there and go, oh my gosh. And if you're a writer, all of a sudden things might become unblocked and you'll go, this is what I needed to do. And maybe out of that, you might be writing your own monologue. Why not? So go out there and build your worlds. Be your captain of industry. Be your emperor. Be the person that brings the emperor their ale. Why not? But that's what is on you to explore. And believe me, it's a great writing exercise. It's a good acting exercise. And it's something where you can just have fun. If you happen to be quarantining with someone and you can bring them into your world, do it. And see how they react to certain things and what their ideas are. That's always sometimes the coolest thing. So anyway, thank you all again for joining me. And remember, stay strong, stay safe, and I will see you next time.